Good morning. You might have noticed I'm quite late today. I don't normally get this late, but seriously, right up to the very last minute, I was taking notes, doing my homework, and even now I don't feel like I have prepared enough for this particular topic. And the Unearthed Arcana is actually not that large. It's not a huge document. So hopefully I've done what I needed to do. The good news is that I have every intention of taking as much time as it needs to make this work. For those of you who wanted to, I'm going to run a poll, so feel free to comment when you're ready or select whatever you want to. Just remember with the polls, once you select an option in the poll, you're fixed. So please don't select it straight away. Give me time to explain myself unless you've already made your decision and you've read the document already. The information on the Unearthed Arcana for the Heroes of Krynn is down in the description. I'm going to run that poll right now while we're doing this. I do apologise for those of you who have been waiting for up to almost, 7-8 minutes. I just felt like it was necessary to make that happen. I'm just going to say hi to a few people. How's it going, GG4K? Pat Sherwood is actually a patron. Thank you, Pat, for showing up. How's it going? The Rolandren? Oh my gosh, okay, but a mouthful. Ramiro's here, hello. Dan's here. Dan is a patron, by the way. One thing at a time. Flames, yes, expect flames, absolutely. I'm going to be honest, okay, but it's not all going to be cheery stuff today because there are some things that need to be said. So make sure you have some food, some drink, get comfortable, and let's crack into this. Let's cover the topic. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons 5e because I normally do. The topic for today is actually Unearthed Arcana. We had an Unearthed Arcana drop, and it just happens to be called the Heroes of Krynn, which means Dragonlance. Well, we think it means Dragonlance. You would think it means Dragonlance, but there's obviously something else going on when you have a close look at the document, and the PDF is down in the description, the link to it if you want to go and check it out yourself. So I thought what I would do is break down what I think of this, and given all the artwork we've had over the years from Dragonlance, I read the books. I never played in the Dragonlance setting, but I read a lot of the novels. And that's really where I come from with regard to this. So when I'm talking about stuff, I'm not just talking about in terms of game mechanics and 5e. I'm talking about what I remember when I was reading the novels. Now, a lot of things have changed with Dragonlance, which means that they can present things differently mechanically in their game now because things have moved on from wherever they were, which is perfectly fine. For those of you who are expecting me to be putting up like an image of the PDF, no, I'll do that later. I just want to go through and make sure that I cover all of the notes that I have. I've got a bucket load of notes that I've made, and so I want to cover all of them and make sure I get everything that you need out of this. Because it took me a long time to actually establish what my opinion was, and I kind of rushed it. Frankly, I felt like 2 days was not enough. I could have taken all week, but I can't wait all week because people aren't really interested in waiting all week. So that's not what's going to happen. So here we go. Unearthed Arcana, Heroes of Krynn, obviously looks very much like Dragonlance. So I think it's a safe bet to say that there's going to be a Dragonlance book for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, probably coming near the end of the year. In the past, it was quite possible to see an Unearthed Arcana drop, and anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years later, you would finally see that content released in an official book. Sometimes it would take 3 years. But Wizards of the Coast seems to have shortened their time frames, so they don't really have the kind of flexibility they used to have. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see it near the end of the year. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen. We would get an Unearthed Arcana for Dragonlance, which we have, and then near the end of the year, my bet is we'll hear an announcement of the official book. And these player options will be in there in some form or another. Probably not as they are currently. That would be my suspicion. Let's remember that the Unearthed Arcana Heroes of Krynn is a collection of player options. There's nothing here for Dungeon Masters. It's all playtest material, so that means it's still in the playtest phase. It's probably done a lot of playtesting behind the scene already, and now it's being released to the public, and so the private playtesters have done their job, and now it's coming forward, and now you're going to give your opinion. Now there'll be a survey that'll probably drop at some point to ask you what you think. Please comment on the surveys. Otherwise what's going to happen is Wizards of the Coast will just do whatever they want to do, which is fine. You know, it's their property. They're allowed to do that sort of thing. I'd also like to point out that I would imagine that, and not in all cases, but I think some of this will get toned down. I think the subclass presented as it's in its current form will certainly get toned down in some form. The rest of it, really, I really didn't think it was overly crazy or anything like that, but that's sort of beside the point. The point is, what have we got here? Well, you don't have a lot. You get one playable race, one subclass, 2 backgrounds, and 10 feats. And those 10 feats are very similar in their nature. And the feats, look, when I was looking at the feats, I just didn't feel like they were that interesting, frankly. I thought they were a poor person's version of what you could get from the player's handbook in some cases, or were sort of back to front or forward to back or something like that. They're like, they didn't make an awful lot of sense, and then mechanically, I don't know why you'd want to take them given what the concept behind them is. I'll explain more about them, because the feats are very much tied to the backgrounds. Like, those backgrounds are pretty important in terms of they're literally tied to the hip in some ways. Like, the first playable race and the only playable race is the Kender. Now, Kender is being made part of the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse. It's now a magical fae, rather than distinctive to Krynn. It is now, you can find, apparently Krynn has been losing Kender here, left, right and centre. They've been falling through dimensional portals and holes into other worlds. So you'll find them right across the multiverse now. I'm not very fond of that. If you've never had any influence or experience with Dragonlance, I like the idea of Kender being distinctively part of Krynn and Dragonlance and nothing else. But they've decoupled that completely, and I think that's probably it's going to stick. That's not going to change. Okay, you can be guaranteed that is not going to change at all. Basically, the Kender is a halfling. I mean, that's really it is. It's just a smaller humanoid in many respects. Although now they've kind of called them from the Feywild. They get ultimate flexibility to putting your ability scores, those bonuses. You can put them anywhere you like, as has been illustrated from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This is the new standard. This is what they're going to do. It's not set in concrete. You can put those bonuses wherever you like. I'm not going to go over how it's done, because by now most of you probably already know, and it's already set out in the document as it is. Kender are a small creature that they're going to walk 30 feet. I don't even know why we even need to have that as a racial trait now in there. Like, because apparently all races now walk 30 feet. It's the homogenizing of all races. Now, I think primarily the concept behind this is Wizards of the Coast has decided that the only way to ensure maximum profit gain is to include no penalties to anything. So do not include penalties to a race, a class or subclass, or to any kind of background. So we do not want to have any penalties and as few restrictions as possible. So I think, and also we want everybody to feel like they're not disadvantaged in some way. So in the past, you know, Kender would probably have been 25 feet, but in this case, the 30 feet, and every race is going to wind up being 30 feet in the future. Again, it sort of breaks the immersion a little bit for me, but I mean, ultimately, is it a huge deal? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, now they have a brave trait. Now I would say the brave trait fits with the Kender, not being afraid of stuff. They get advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition. So, I mean, I'm fine with that, although I do ask myself, why aren't the Kender just immune to being frightened? I mean, is that really too much? Have we gone too far? I'm hoping that when this finally gets published, that they upgrade it to, instead of rolling a dice, deciding with a saving throw, that we're going to just go with they're immune to being frightened. I mean, elves are immune to magical sleep, so why can't Kender just be immune to being frightened? I think the concept behind the Kender, right, is that they're so unaware of the nature of the world that they just don't know that they should be afraid, and so that would duplicate it. They're just immune. I mean, that's my opinion. The Kender Ace feature is restricted to level 3. I do not like level restrictions in a race. I don't know why they keep doing this. I've seen it in the Dragonborn for Fizzbands. It's not something I want to see encouraged. I think it's unnecessary. I wouldn't say that the Kender Ace feature is strong enough to warrant that kind of restriction. Even, I mean, it does have magical, mechanical benefits to it, yes, but it doesn't fit the Dragonlance Kender lore at all. Like, they're not magical creatures that just reach into a container and pull something out. They are little thieves, basically. they pick up everything, and that subconsciously or consciously. I mean, it's just something they do. And I guess what they've probably tried to do in this case, and I'll go into more on the Kender Ace feature because I think this is the granddaddy of the race. Ultimately, this is what makes it stand out, right? Is the Kender Ace trait, which is that you can pull out of a container or bag basically a magically created one random item. So one random item. Now, when I say one random or one, look, you can have a bunch of gold coins, you could have a simple light weapon, you could have a trinket from the player's handbook, which will be random. All of this is like random. In some cases, I believe the simple light weapon, you can choose the weapon that you pull out of the bag. That's if you roll for a simple light weapon, which you may not. You could pull out a piece of adventuring gear, a tool, a grappling hook, a crowbar, and it's going to last for 1 hour, and then it disappears. Now, this feature, I think, ultimately in itself is not useful in combat. I think it's more out of combat where it's going to be more useful to you. The Kender Ace trait, actually, I would say it's quite an innovative idea outside of combat. I actually like the idea, kind of, but Kender aren't, the Kender are no longer the little thieves they were in the past. What I don't like about this is because you don't really have control about what you're doing, and it's rolled on a chart and a table, you're going to wind up pulling stuff out that have no use to you. Now, which will be hugely amusing. I have no doubt that there'll be people in the party who are like, ha 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 ha, he's just pulled out a crowbar. He's pulled out a tool. What are we going to do with that right now? It's totally unrelated to our situation. So I think really the random aspect of it and probably kind of needs to go for it to be kind of useful. The concept behind the Kender is they always had a lot of stuff in their bag. So when you needed something done, you could go to the Kender and say, do you have something useful for the situation? And they rummage through their bag, and then Tasselhoff would pull something out that was just the right thing at this time, and he might have forgotten that was even in the bag. So I mean, this is what I remember in terms of Kender. So I feel like the random aspect of it is certainly amusing and funny. Usefulness is very much diminished. It only lasts an hour and then it magically disappears. Again, I don't necessarily like that. I kind of feel it would actually be more useful in some respects to say that They can just pull certain things out of their bag and they just last. The only problem is gold coins that would last. Obviously, you can't keep pulling gold coins out of there whenever you want. So some adjustment needs to be made to the Kender Ace trait, in my opinion. Then they've got this last thing here, which is the Taunt feature, which allows you to give an insult, throw an insult to a creature within 60 feet away, and then you apply disadvantage to an attack roll for 1 round if they fail a charisma saving throw, which is actually quite fitting. I actually have no problem with that. It makes perfect sense with the Kender. Mechanically rolling dice in this case, yeah, absolutely. So I don't think that needs to change. I don't think it will change, honestly. What I don't agree with doing is I don't agree with needing to it's proficiency bonus. It's limited, the taunt, to your proficiency bonus. And then once you've used it up a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, you have to take a long rest. I know this is the new norm, proficiency bonus, long rest, recharge. I'm not a fan of it. I prefer things that just work all the time, and if they need to be, if they're too powerful, then we tone them down so you can just use them all the time, rather than just have these things. It's another thing to track. Do you know what I mean? It's another thing that players have to keep an eye on, and often players forget these things. And then if you've got dungeon masters who really want the players to actually, they're trying to run them out of resources, and the players decide not to record or remember that they have used up these things, I'm always reluctant to have limited resource things. The only time I feel like it has to exist is when we're dealing with spells. Every other thing, I think we don't need. It doesn't need to be a limited resource. Like, figure out how to make a mechanic that you can use all the time. That's how I sort of see it. Okay, right. So the thing that you've all been waiting for is the big one, the subclass. Right. This is the big feature here. I am. I'm going to have a lot of problems with this one, frankly. This subclass is poorly written. This is the sorcerer subclass, Lunar Magic. It's poorly written. It's extremely complex. It's clearly overpowered. So I would expect a lot of changes. I do not expect the Lunar Magic to stay intact in its current form. And if it does, the only place it's probably going to get played is at during Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League games. And I think most home games, Dungeon Masters will probably ban it in its current form. But I don't think it's going to stay like this. I think they're going to have to change it. This is the one time where they've definitely overtalked things. So the 3 moons of Krynn impact your magic, and there are 3 phases of the moon that also have an effect. But the players select the moon phase rather than being affected by the moon, which is strange. Like, when you look at how this, I mean, I understand you pick one of the 3 moons of Krynn. That's fine, okay? Awesome. Got it. Understood. But then we start talking about the phases of the moon. Okay? And this is where I feel like it kind of falls apart. You've got the new moon, you've got the full, I think it's the new moon, full moon, crescent moon. Something like that. Something like that. But anyway, it would make more sense for this particular sorcerer and Lunar Magic to work like the Dungeon Master tells you what phase of the moon we're currently in. And those are the features you use for that phase of the moon, rather than the player, it being on them to decide what phase of the moon they want to use. It's just too gamey and mechanicky. It really doesn't fit in with the world in terms of how moons work, right? This is one aspect. I know it's just a flavor thing. I know it's just a world building concept, but it's one thing that, for me, just made it feel like it's just a bunch of rules with mechanics to it and nothing else, because it's not really tied to the world and how it would work. And I know there are players who don't care about that, but I also know there are players who do care about that sort of thing. The manifestation of Lunar Magic table is very small. It's not very big at all. It could have been a bit bigger. Hopefully they expand it. but it does have some nice character flavour. And that's really what it is. I mean, a lot of it's cosmetic, you know, so your appearance, which is fine. I'm not going to go over those things. They're there. You may find that you want to just talk to your dungeon master when this finally comes out and say, look, can I change my appearance to look a little bit like this? It won't have any mechanical effect, but I just want to sort of change my effect because I am affected by the moon, and I'm a, you know, basically a lunar sorcerer. I think that's probably going to happen quite a lot, rather than necessarily using what has been provided, unless they expand it and we get a few more options. Right, so the Lunar magic feature at first level, it's basically an improved Sacred Flame cantrip that can target potentially 2 characters if they are standing 5 feet apart. It's a very strong feature for level 1 and for a cantrip, but I wouldn't say it's broken, because most of us know by now with Sacred Flame that Sacred Flame is also coined by another name. It's called Sacred Miss. And the reason it's called Sacred Miss is because unless you target a creature with a low dexterity, which tends to be zombies and undead that are slow moving, usually Sacred Flame doesn't work. That's just how it is. Okay? So it's nice that we can now expand it to 2 targets, but they still also have to be standing right beside each other, pretty much. So I don't think that that's going to be a huge problem. Frankly, I think it's fine as it is. It's not broken. Now we get to the next one. This is the one that everybody's been talking about. The Lunar embodiment feature at first level. It is just broken. I think it's broken. It's badly worded, and it's a design mess. When you look at how it operates and works, it is so confusing and hard to figure out. And you can tell in many respects that maybe this was rushed through, this particular document, because it's kind of incomplete. So one of the things you'll notice is that the Lunar embodiment feature gives you between, I would say, 3 to 15 new spells to cast from the source, for a sorcerer level, like level 1 through to 9. So at level 1 you could potentially have 3 spells depending on the phase of the moon, and then at level 9 you're going to have up to about 15 that you can access depending on the moon phase that you're currently using. Okay, I would say the majority of those spells are actually very, very useful. Dissonant Whispers I always find to be a bit hit and miss, but the vast majority of the spells will come up. That's not to say that they're always going to be useful, because some of them will be situational and not necessarily a catchment for everything. But the fact is, you do get, and they don't count towards your sorcerer spells. And sorcerers don't get that many spells known as it is. So the fact that you're potentially going from 3 to 15, from level 1 to 9, in terms of expanding your spell list, is pretty good. That's always a good thing for any caster. The Lunar embodiment new moon ability with it's got like a 30-foot aura doing 3d10 necrotic damage. You get some sort of limited invisibility, which is fine, and then it reduces a creature's speed to 0. This feature, I think, is supposed to have the word bonus written in it. And I looked at it and I thought, am I blind? I just don't see the word. Is it a bonus action to use this feature, this new moon ability, as part of Lunar embodiment? And I couldn't see it there. Okay, this is not the spells. This is like the ability that you can use. And I'm like, it's not there. So it recharges when you take a long rest, or you can spend 5 sorcery points. There's no way I'm going to spend 5 sorcery points to be able to do this. Even an aura of 30 feet. How often is everybody going to be... If I've got a sorcerer and I'm surrounded by enemies, well, yeah, but I must have done something terribly wrong as a sorcerer to be surrounded in a 30-foot aura to be doing 3d10 necrotic damage. So I don't particularly like the feature. I kind of feel like it's a bit of a nonsense. I certainly wouldn't use 5 sorcery points to to recharge it. I'd just wait for a long rest if I'm going to use it at all, if it ever comes up and I'm stupid enough to get myself in that situation. Then the Lunar Embodiment Crescent Moon ability gives you 60 foot of teleportation, which is fine. It's better than Misty Step, and I mean you can do it at level 1 rather than level 2. Misty Step's level 2 spell. Okay, it doesn't say anything about an action to do anything with it. Like, it doesn't list an action. I think it's supposed to say bonus action, but it's not there. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I've just been working too hard. You also get resistance to all damage for 1 round. It's certainly, I would wait for a long rest to get it recharged. I certainly wouldn't be using 5 sorcery points to be able to use it again in the same day rather than taking a long rest. It's not good enough to be doing that. Okay, now the way that Lunar Embodiment has been worded, you could have between one and 5 spells to cast without using a spell slot. That's right, you don't use a spell slot between 1 and 5 depending on your level, whether you're level 1 or level 9. Okay, because you can basically, whatever phase of the moon you're in, you can choose one of those spells and you can cast it without using a spell slot, which is awesome, right? It's like a free spell. Yep, it is a free spell. But it's a bit situational because some of those spells aren't going to always be coming up. I would say that it's better than the Wizard's Arcane Recovery in terms of what you can potentially, I mean, particularly at higher level, if you're a level 9 sorcerer, then you're probably getting a lot more spells that you can cast than what you would get from the Wizard's Arcane Recovery, which is only half your level worth of spell slots, whereas you're going to be getting spells in this that are significantly more powerful, quite a few of them, and some of them are like really, really good, like high level spells. So I think this is probably going to get toned down. Oh, well, I'm not going to say it's probably. I think it should be. If it isn't going to get, it should be toned down. What happens later on with this ability is where things really unravel, and I will explain very shortly. The Lunar Boons feature at level 6 allows Metamagic sorcerer points, the cost for using your Metamagic, to be reduced by 1. And it can be done a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before taking a long rest to recharge it, which is your standard mechanic they're using. It's strong, but it gets stronger at higher levels. I'm not completely sure. When I was looking at it, I was thinking, I feel like this is not so much a big deal at low level, but at higher levels, it's going to make a significant difference. That means it's potentially possible for a Metamagic ability that costs 1 sorcery point to cost no sorcery points, right? That's how it's going to work. And you can do that twice at level 1, but you get it at level 6, so you're going to have a proficiency bonus when you get this. Your proficiency bonus will be a +3, so you can do it 3 times. So when it comes in, it kicks in, that means you can reduce your sorcery point cost 3 times before you need to take a long rest, and you can do it all over again. I wouldn't say that it's hugely useful at level 6. I think it's probably more useful later on rather than in sort of, the mid-range between level 1 and 10, but I'm not completely sure about that. Okay. The waxing and waning feature at level 6 means that you can use a bonus action and 1 sorcery point to make it possible to exploit the Lunar Embodiment free spells even more. Basically, you can change the phase of the moon. So if you want to move from the new moon phase to a different moon phase and access a whole set of different spells, you can. What this means is it's too good to be true, frankly. I don't think that this ability can exist in its current form without it creating a huge amount of problems, because it would be a no-brainer. You would always do this. You wouldn't not do this. It would be stupid not to utilize this feature if it's available to you, right? there doesn't seem to be, as far as I can tell, I don't believe there is a limitation on the number of times you can use the waxing and waning feature, but ultimately you're only ever going to be able to jump between 3 different moon phases, as far as I can tell. So that means there is a hard limit, but the hard limit is pretty high. You've got full moon, new moon, crescent moon. So there's going to be a hard limit on it. But what ultimately it now means is that lunar embodiment, that feature, gets extremely powerful, because now you can use your waxing and waning feature and potentially get, at the right sorcerer level, 15 free spells with no spell slots being used at 9th level. This is going to have to be fixed. I can't see it. I know it sounds like a wonderful thing, but I don't think there'll be many people who will want to play anything but a sorcerer. I mean, frankly, if it were me and I had the choice between playing this and a wizard, I probably would play this, because it's just so much better than everything else. This is the problem with Unearthed Arcana. They present stuff and it's quite obvious that it's probably going to have to get adjusted. Please don't get attached to these things, because they can't stay the way they are. Okay, next. That's probably the biggest fault that I can see with the waxing and waning feature and the lunar embodiment. Okay. The rest of it is not really a big deal. I will go over them. The rest of the features for this subclass, I don't think they're particularly powerful. I think if anything, they're kind of tame, rather tame. Because the next one you get is at level 14. So the lunar empowerment feature at level 14 is rather tame for a level 14 feature, if you ask me. You shred bright light. You're going to grant advantage on saving throws with a 10-foot aura. Now you shed bright light for 10 feet and dim light for another 10 feet or something like that. It gives advantage on dexterity saving throws or stealth checks. You get a, ability, you can apply disadvantage on attack rolls while in dim light or darkness to enemies. And you also get resistance to necrotic, radiant damage, lots of mechanical options, but it doesn't sort of solve high-level play problems, in my opinion. Look, these features are all very dependent on the phase of the moon that you're currently using. This is why they're so complicated, because there's like 3 different options. Every time we go to one of these abilities, they're like, you got to go, which phase of the moon are we in? Which phase of the moon have I selected? Because I control the moon, apparently. The last feature, the lunar phenomenon feature at level 18 has a 30-foot aura, basically. You can do necrotic damage, blind your enemies, heal allies. It grants limited invisibility in dim light and darkness, which is really like just standard invisibility in darkness and dim light. We're level 18. And it grants a 60-foot teleportation. 60-foot teleportation. Didn't I see something that was very similar to that further back? Isn't there a feature back in like level 1? This is like a level 1 feature for this subclass. And it's fractionally better. It's fractionally better, really, than something like Misty Step. Like at 18th level, people are throwing around things like full teleportation. Teleportation's got a long range, dimension door, gate, these sorts of spells. They're there. You can get them. With teleporting 60 feet. Look, seriously, rather tame for the top tier ability. There's a lot of potential, or should I say optional options. There's a lot of options, but are the options good enough for a level 18 feature? Like you're dealing with traveling the multiverse at this point. Like this is what your character does. At level 18, you are not just a master of the realm. You are like a master of the universe. Like a lot of player handbook stuff is like this as well. So Wizards of the Coast needs to get it together. get it together. Seriously, you can make that a lot better than it is. It doesn't need to be a spell. It can just give them an ability, and just give them something. If we want to travel somewhere, just give them teleportation for a kilometre or something like that. You know, or just give them the ability to travel from one world to another and be done with it. Okay, next. We've got 2 backgrounds. Bear with me, I am probably going to butcher the name of this Knight Order, which is supposed to be very Dragonlance-y. Knight of Solamnia. The background, Knight of Solamnia. So the Squire of Solamnia feature looks almost identical to the soldier background. That's the military rank feature they get. So you can stay in a fortress or encampment. Cool. Alright, makes sense. Got it. But did we really need it? The soldier background did the same thing? Well, actually we kind of did, because you get a feat with this background. You also get the Squire of Solamnia feat, which is pointless unless you are a spellcaster, which I find strange, because I'm pretty sure that feat, the Squire of Solamnia feat, basically says you get proficiency in medium armor and proficiency in military weapons, military melee weapons. I think it's military weapons, which is fine. But if you are a fighter paladin, which you would think are probably going to be part of this, have this background, you wouldn't want to have this feat, because you've already got all those proficiencies. So the only time it would make sense to actually take this background is if you are a caster to get the feat. Otherwise, you're not really getting anything out of it if you're a martial character. Am I wrong? I don't think I am. I think I'm right. It's also incomplete. It's quite clear that this particular background they didn't spend a lot of time on it. It only has the personality traits and a very small Knight of Solamnia trinket table, which is fine. You can use this rather than the trinkets in the player's handbook. There's no flaws, bonds, or ideals. Okay, great. Proficiency in athletics, survival, 1 extra language, 1 musical instrument, and some equipment is fine. I think that's all cool. I think the only extra thing you kind of get is, in terms of equipment, is probably the fact that you get an extra language. I think this is one of the things I do like, is the fact that a lot of these backgrounds seem to give you another language, which I think is a good thing. I'm happy to see that there. Okay, next background. The Mage of High Sorcery background. The Initiate of High Sorcery feature looks very much like the Soldier and Folk Hero background features, but you're getting free modest lodging and food at a Tower of High Sorcery. Okay, alright. Do we see a theme coming up? I do feel like there's a theme showing that, like, okay, you can stay wherever you like, provided it's associated with your particular order or your mage school or mage background or whatever. Which is, look, I don't think that's a bad thing, but did it even need to exist? The only thing that makes it sort of really stand out is the fact that you also get the Initiate of High Sorcery feat, which is a more limited version of the Magic Initiate feat in the player's handbook. So, which is fine. I mean, I'll explain that feat if you like shortly, but really it's a more limited version of the Magic Initiate feat from the player's handbook. But you don't normally get a feat in backgrounds. I think backgrounds might wind up having feats tied to them. A lot of people have been complaining that backgrounds don't give you anything. Like it's garbage. Like they give you two proficiencies. They will often give you a language. They give you a whole bunch of equipment and gear that you would not normally get. And you are often able to have it's either usually a language proficiency or a skill proficiency or a tool or an instrument of some kind. So you do actually get a lot of things. The things you're not getting, they're just not combat related. And I think that's been the people's complaint, is they're so fixated on combat, they are insisting that the background must have a combat feature to it. And you'll notice that both of these feats tied to these backgrounds are combat focused. They're around casting spells, and they're around being proficient in armor and weapons. So I think that's our future. I think we're looking at having combat stuff in our backgrounds now, no matter what. It's also rather incomplete. Again, you'll find that there's personality traits for this background. There's a small mage of high sorcery trinket table, which is a substitute apparently for the player's handbook, and then no flaws, bonds, or ideals. They obviously did, look, they must have thrown this together really fast. Had a good holiday, too busy doing other things. We better put this out because we're going to be putting out a book very shortly, and this stuff is going to be in there, so we haven't quite finished writing it, but maybe we'll just throw something together and people will be happy. You also get proficiency in Arcana, History. Does that sound similar? Sounds like the Sage background, doesn't it? 2 extra languages. Pretty sure that sounds like the Sage background as well. And you also get some equipment almost identical to the Sage background. Ultimately, that aspect of it. The only thing that makes it sort of superior is the fact that you get this this feat tied to it as well. Now, the feats, I don't really want to spend too much time on the feats. There's a couple of things I want to say about them. I will talk about them more if you really want me to. I'm going to talk about the fact that it looks like there are now feat restrictions. So a lot of the feats, out of the 10 feats, you have to be part of a particular background. You have to have a particular background. If you don't have to have a particular background, you need to be at least level 4. The 3 of those don't have that, but they are those 3 feats. I believe it is the Divinely Favoured, the Initiate of High Sorcery, and the Squire of Solamnia. They are required to get the other 7 feats. You must have that, and you must also be level 4. And to get some of these feats, you must be part of a particular background. That's another thing I need to point out, is that to have those, to get those feats, those first 3 feats, the Divinely Favoured, the Initiate of High Sorcery, and the Squire of Solamnia, you have to have picked up a particular... It looks like it's either a story tie-in into the world, or you need to be tied or connected to a particular background. I may be wrong about that, but I think that's what's going on here. What I do dislike about it is we see the return of feat trees. Now, they're short feat trees. Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 had them. They were awful. They were a terrible idea. I know some people are still reminiscing on the nonsense that was the feat tree. And I don't think we should be going back to 3.5 in terms of feat trees. I think it's a very poor idea. It appeals to the crunchy people who like building characters mechanically. I do not think that they are... One of the reasons that 5e did so well with feats is the feats were pretty beefy, okay? They were really good. They were certainly easily able to compete with getting an ability increase, many of them. And then on top of that, you didn't have prerequisites to get them. You could just take them. You didn't have to have something else, which is a good thing. But the concept of having very short feat trees, I don't like. And that's what all of these other feats have. So the Adept of the Black Robes, the Adept of the Red Robes, there's a white one, Divine Communications, King of the Crown, King of the Sword, King of the Rose. They're all basically, you have to have those first 3 feats that I was talking about. I don't want to talk too much about the feats right now. Maybe I'll do that in the chat. What I will say now is, it's clear to me that if this is everything we get in the Dragonlance book that's coming out this year, players are not going to be happy. I wouldn't be happy. There's hardly anything to offer them. A lot of it doesn't make sense. And frankly, a lot of it is poorly written and poorly constructed. They have time to fix all of that. But it's going to be up to you to make sure you tell them, you screwed the pooch, baby, and you should have put more time in there because there's obviously some problems. More than one person needs to read through there to make sure that you haven't missed anything. And that's exactly what's happened as far as I can tell right now. Okay, Now that I've whined and moaned and griped and so forth, which happens in these things from time to time, and this is one time when it certainly will happen, I'm going to say I hope that this was useful to you. Please go and check out the document. If you like what I do, awesome. I do actually have hundreds of videos for players and dungeon masters. You're welcome to go and check out. I am going to say right now, I'm going to be big 2 thumbs down for Heroes of Krynn. For me, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a great selection and it's not a great document as far as I'm concerned, but there's still time to fix it. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing video content like this in the live streams, then you can do that through Patreon, the Amazon affiliate links down in the description, the merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos, or just keep watching my videos, that's fine too. Do the usual YouTube things like share, like and subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm done. It's time to do some chat. But I need a throat lozenger. Please make it easy for me and do hashtag question. Otherwise, I will miss you. Okay, it's just going to happen. And I can't change that. It's simply too hard to focus on everything if people aren't sort of making sure that they put hashtag question. My eyes just get weaker, and there's a lot of people commenting today, which is to be expected. A lot of people, almost 50%, have not read this document yet. I'm not surprised. Please go have a look at it. People, so 31% are happy with it. 3% no, they don't like it. And undecided 21%. Okay, cool. Right, now, let me go through the Q&A. If I get through the Q&A, I will go to the document and we'll talk a bit more about some of the feats or some of the other features that you want me to discuss, if that's what you would like me to do. I do have a scene set up so I can do that if I need to. Okay, so I already said hi to GG4K and to Dan and Ramiro. And yeah, okay. One thing at a time. Hi Chris Carter, how's it going? What do you got here? Yes, I have to say I am looking forward to giving Dragonlance a go. I've read the books, but I've never played, so I am very interested to see what they have to offer. I'm glad you're here, Pat. I'm glad you're still with us. I know that you supported me longer than you said you would, which I do appreciate. Brett. Hello, Brett. Hopefully I haven't scared you off. Ah, right, so GG4K, you loved the work and the majority enjoy of the, look, the high level play stuff. Look, I'm waiting for autumn. As soon as autumn comes in, we're going to talk about followers, mounts, strongholds, traveling, the multiverse. We're going to talk about all the things that you do at high level, but from a player perspective. Because it's not the dungeon masters who need the education around that, it's the players. Okay, so that's all coming. So you can be sure you're going to see lots more of that. That's why I did all of those polls. That's why I've been writing stuff in the background. Ah, so you're supporting me, GG, on Patreon. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Yeah. I haven't released an awful lot in terms of high level play, but you will get a lot of that. There's actually some stuff for Dungeon Masters already in there, but it's not on the player perspective. Look, the player perspective guides are still useful for Dungeon Masters. They will be anyway. Hello, Overboard. Hi, Joe. How's it going? Mr. Welch is here. Hello. You reckon? Yeah, well, look, I have to agree. Yeah, rename the sorcerer the sailor class. The sailor class. We'll call it the sailor subclass now. It was obvious. Hi, Chris. What do you got here? So you just read through it. It's very light, isn't it? There's not a lot there. Yeah, I didn't like it either, mate. That's why I said it. Fieflin 526. Minotaurs were a Krynn race. Yep. They were in one of the first 5e UA, yeah. And look, I think Minotaurs will probably show up in a book for Dragonlance or Krynn. I think that's probably likely to happen. But I think it would also be significantly changed from what we've seen in the past. Yeah, look, I think the trick is not to make every race available to every world. The problem is what the Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast are trying to do. Hi, Trevor. How's it going? No Fun Allowed. Is they're trying to make a whole lot of races that they just transpose into any world universally. So it's now up to the Dungeon Master to decouple and set hard limits or restrictions, which makes them look like the bad guy, or bad person, or bad girl. And I don't like it when they do that sort of thing. It seriously annoys me when they set up Dungeon Masters to look like, oh, you're being a dick and not making my game fun because you won't let me play this particular race in this world. And you're trying to say it doesn't make sense for this world to have them there. We're not playing in Jeremy Crawford's world, okay? Let Jeremy Crawford run his own game the way he wants to. Okay, what do you got here, Trevor? Dipping their toes into feat trees makes me believe that 5.5 or 6e will be more. Yeah. We'll have more. Also, yeah, I think we will see more feat trees. I think the design team that they currently have, Trevor, are from the older school of understanding. I think they're actually the wrong people to be designing Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 or 6e, because from what I can see, I don't recognize many of the names. They are clearly people who have come from Paizo. Paizo's designers primarily have not been very good at that sort of thing. They've just been following the 3.5 concept, which is old. It is not the innovative and elegant thing that Dungeons and Dragons 5e is supposed to be. And so we're going in that direction. Even the likes of 4e. So I think a lot of them are, it's clear to me that they think very dice-like, very mechanical, and very, let's build a character with these various blocks, and you have to have the right block in the right place. It's like we've gone backwards in time. It's like a regression in development. Hello, Nicola. Well, Kender aren't supposed to be halflings. I realise that. They are not related. They're not supposed to be related. Yes, they are supposed to be the standout in Dragonlance. Exactly. Well, that's true, but seriously, what normally happens with the frightened condition? Usually with being frightened, it means you can't get any closer or you run away. Now, running away is a big deal. But there's got to be a point where we understand it has to make sense for the race and the creature, rather than being based on every single race must be exactly the same in power. I can tell you that even if they're trying to do that, none of their stuff is. None of it is. So why are they even bothering? Are we going to decide that the wizard's too powerful, so we're going to change the wizard from what we had before? Now, there's been lots of complaints. There always has been complaints about the power level of certain things. At low level, a wizard is very squishy, not very powerful, can't do very much. That's the reality. That's your trade-off. Later on, you become more powerful if you live. It's become a lot easier to live in 5e. Yes, another magical race. Exactly, Mr. Welch. By the way, Mr. Welch has a channel deals with lore, Dungeons and Dragons lore on a particular world. You should go and check him out sometime. Yeah, all the new races seem to be following the same pattern. Yeah. Nicola, I just seen your comment that was hidden. Are they really? Chris. I'd simply ignore the brave trait and say that they cannot be frightened. Yeah, that's what I would say. I think they just can't be frightened. I think it makes far more sense. I want to steal from other players. Look, I am not suggesting that we set up the Kender to be stealing from the other players. Okay, the kleptomaniac aspect of Kender, you're not going to stop players doing that anyway. No matter what features you give them, they're still going to try to do that sort of garbage. Okay, so building in features into your, because, now I'll explain to you why. It's random. Because you're magically getting something out of container or bag randomly, you're not getting what you want when you need it. And players, when they want to do that sort of thing, they're not doing it necessarily because they want to play a Kender. They're doing it because they just want to be a dick or a pain in the butt. Okay? There's a point where you have to understand that what you're doing is not playing the character. Now, you could say, yeah, but Tasselhoff stole from everybody. There's nothing wrong with you stealing from all the NPCs. The Dungeon Master won't care. Okay? How you play it with the player characters at your table, in your group, in your party, that's a different story. But this mechanic, okay, this Kender Ace, is not going to change or stop that happening at all. At all. Okay. Well, I think the concept is they are closer to gnomes and dwarves than they are, or elves, than they are to a halfling. But if you hadn't figured it out, I've said it primarily as a poke fun at. Okay, I'm poking fun at stuff. Yeah, we need to have the Sailor Moon outfit now. Absolutely. Let's pull that one out. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about there, Mr. Welch. The solution we came up with was every use to let you roll a d10 equal to your proficiency bonus, and that was the number of gold pieces worth of items you have. Yeah, I can see that. I actually think that makes more sense to simply give them more stuff they can stick in their bag, because then they don't need to worry about having gold to pay for it. So that's not a bad idea, because on average you get 5 more items, and if you can select them from various places, I mean, maybe they would be randomly done, but at least you know they were there. Anyway, I still feel like there's a better way of doing it. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, gold coins are useless in Dragonlance. They use steel for currency. Yeah, well, let's hope that the designers that they have brought on board notice that particular point. Remember, Kender fall out of holes in the multiverse all the time, out of Dragonlance or Krynn, into other worlds. So that's why they're saying gold. Rather than steel coins, because then otherwise it would be tied only to the Dragonlance world. In addition to again, I've seen this argument, Nicola, about Dragonborn can't have dark vision because it would be too powerful. I don't agree. You know, kobolds can't have pack tactics because it's too powerful as a player option. Well, then don't have kobolds in your game. Or maybe you have a campaign where everybody plays a kobold. Then it doesn't matter if everybody has pack tactics. But it makes sense since the monsters, kobolds, have pack tactics. There's a point where, you know, game balance is one thing, but we can't sort of say that Wizards of the Coast is just going for game balance, because they're not. They create things that are significantly more powerful than we would expect for the sake of doing that. Fireball's a good example. It still exists, and they're not going. Trust me, they won't change Fireball. There is no way their marketing team will say, you know, when you put out the books in 2024, because Fireball's just way too powerful as a level 3 spell, you've got to change it. There's no way that Wizards of the Coast is going to do that. So yeah, no, I'm not with that. I'm sorry, Nicole, I'm just not going to agree with that one. Next, moving along. So I'm looking for questions right now. Yeah, half moon. I was thinking full moon, new moon, half moon, and I guess half moon is crescent moon, right? But again, I guess that's semantics. I mean, ultimately, in the end, does that really matter? I think that's just semantics. Hang on, what's this? Global product and gaming review. Would you DM 5 days a week if you could get rich doing it? No. I've done my hobbies as jobs, and they always wind up being unfun. I would not. Would I teach Dungeons and Dragons 5 times a week? That's actually probably going to happen through Lighthall, if you didn't know. I've just got to write the lesson plans. And the way things are going at work and what's going on in the world, Omicron is destroying New Zealand right now. It's it's just paralyzed it. So I have every intention of trying to work online, and I have an opportunity to do that. I'll start slow, but I'll work faster if I need to. But I would not run games. Running games is just way too hard. Whereas I can teach somebody a skill for an hour and a half and cope with that. And Lighthall would be paying potentially enough that I could do that and not try to have to run multiple classes every day. Maybe I'd have to run 2. Who knows? We'll see. But no, I would never dungeon master 5 days a week. That's the surest way to kill the fun for yourself. The grey gem too. Yeah, I'm not. I won't. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much into that. We'll just try to stick into. Look, here's the thing. Keeping track of the lunar cycle in the world, dungeon masters do that sort of thing. And if you have a sorcerer, the sorcerer player is going to ask the dungeon master, what phase of the moon are we currently in? Now, are you saying there's no dungeon masters out there who are ever going to want to track the phases of the moon? Considering the moons of Krynn are actually so important, they may well be something that they do. Like tracking what's going to happen with the weather. And it's not like you need to keep a track and a record. Like, it's as simple as saying, as like when the sorcerer player says, are we in a full moon? Is it a new moon? Is it a crescent moon, or is it a full moon? And the dungeon master just needs to say, okay, what was it last time? It was a full moon last time. It's a crescent moon now. It's a half moon. Yeah? And then after they've done a crescent moon, it's like, a few days later or a period of time passes. Yeah, new moon. Like, I don't think it's actually that hard. I know what they're trying. You're saying they're trying to take away the extra things for a dungeon master to track. Who doesn't like consulting charts in classes all the time? Well, yeah, I suppose you could say that. Would I run a Dragonlance campaign? Yes, I would. No, I wouldn't do it if I was getting paid lots of money a week to do it. As again, I'm not really looking to turn my hobby and playing the game and running the game for people. It's really tough. It's not fun. I've seen the big YouTubers. You can see that they are being the types of videos they make and the things that they say. You can tell they're getting worn down by running games for people who they don't really particularly like, but they're running games for people because they pay them. They're getting paid to run a game for somebody, but they don't particularly like the people and the way that those people play. I would much prefer to play with people I want to play with, who are my friends. But I'm quite happy to go about teaching people how to play the game or Dungeon Master. You crowd surfing at the Goblin concert, really? I suppose that would be a Kender feature or trait, right? A few free twinned or quickened spells a day. Yep, that's pretty cool. Yeah, look, I mean, changing the Metamagic is always a good thing, Mike. I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't think it's a particularly overly powerful ability for the level that it's gained at. Yeah, I see people are putting in, I haven't been very specific about all of these features. Really, I thought it was more important to give you, rather than read out all the text like everybody else, it's just give me my opinion of what I thought of stuff. So this is the wax or the wax on, wax off part of the subclass. Nice one. I like the joke. You're welcome, Pat. Right, so Overboard, what do you got here? I don't mind some UA, but I really need to read it first before letting players try it. Yeah, I totally get it. I'm not suggesting that you try it out. I'm suggesting at least respond to the survey once you've had a read of it. I do think it is fun to play test some stuff. I don't think everything. I know I play tested the Minotaur when it first came out because I really liked Minotaurs. Hi, how's it going, Pale Rider? You want to play a Drow Knight of the Rose. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it may not be as advantageous an advantage as you might think. Yeah, 3.5 is old. It's old mechanics. Seriously. It's frankly, Pale Rider, I'd prefer to go back to playing basic Dungeons and Dragons than to go back to playing 3.5. Okay? I would prefer to play basic Dungeons and Dragons, which I've never played, but there's no way I'm going back to playing 3.5. And I'm not going back to playing Pathfinder 1st Ed Edition, and I probably will never play Pathfinder 2nd Ed Edition. Because it's just not for me. I mean, other people, if it's your thing, you play it, that's fine. But I'm not playing it. I'm not into that sort of thing. I don't like stuff that's got all of these very tight codified rules. It drives me nuts. And yeah, Demigorgon. Yeah, well, fair enough. And as it probably should. How's it going, Archer? And I'm glad you like the show. You're in the Ukraine. Oh gosh, stay safe, mate. You be careful. Are you in the Ukraine? I get the impression that you are. I think everybody likes old Dragonlance. I think we're getting something beyond the 5th age of Dragonlance. I don't think we're getting the 5th age of Dragonlance, by the way. Whatever they put out, it's probably not going to be that. Our very limited adventuring in Krynn we had a house rule, and you went to get something that was a percentage chance, usually pretty low, that your kind of friend had a, is it Kender friend? Is it Kinder or Kender friend had it? Right, okay, so okay, question. We finally got a question, hashtag question. Thank you very much, GG, for 40k. Do you think the Drake Warden Ranger will make sense in Dragonlance? Yes, I do. The Drake Warden Ranger is also extremely powerful, so it's probably more going to be about, even if it makes sense, is your Dungeon Master going to let you play it? Because I saw it and I thought it's very much combat focused. It doesn't really follow the 3 pillars of play as far as I can tell. I mean, let's get real. If you had a choice between playing a Beastmaster Ranger or a Drake Warden Ranger, what are you going to play? What are you going to play? you're gonna play the Drake Warden Ranger. Even the revised Ranger that now has like a spirit animal is not as cool as the Drake Warden. Seriously? It's not like everything about the Drake Warden I love, though. Brent Jacobs, how's it going, Brent? The cursed grounds of the Tower of High Sorcery got to him too. Yeah, look. Maybe. Okay, so Fireball needs to be taken out of the game because it's pyro aggression. I have to say, Pale Rider, I like to burn things, okay? I almost burnt down my house with flaming toilet rolls and vegetable oil doing a skit, and set my trees on fire. So now I know I can't do that, but I like to burn things in Dungeons and Dragons. So I would be sad if Fireball was taken away from me. I would cry. I would probably do a video, a live stream, and an edited version, ranting and raving about how upset I was. Thank you for the super chat overboard. Thank you, Joe. I do appreciate it. I'm glad that you're liking the content. This was not supposed to be the video for today. I was supposed to talk about monster parts today, and it didn't happen, which now means it's 2 weeks from now. A gallon of gas. I don't know about that, mate. As you know, fuel is getting pretty pricey. In New Zealand, it's the same thing. It's got to travel a lot further too, because even though we have a refinery in New Zealand, we don't refine our own oil. We have to send our oil to somewhere else, and they refine it, and then they send it back to us. It's like the only refinery we have can process West Texas crude. That's the only thing it can process. It can't process our own oil. It makes no sense. Okay, I didn't finish with the chat, but I'll look. Let me see. Okay, I watched a few friends stream their Pathfinder game. Yeah, look, it's not for me. Hello, Jeff. How's it going? I missed your opening. I look, it happens. Seriously, I was late. I didn't start till 7 or 8 minutes after I was supposed to. But the good thing is, if you cannot find this live stream and rewatch it later, it's because YouTube hit it. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. I promise. I have stopped doing that. Okay? I'm not listening to people who say I need to unlist all of my live streams because it's bad for my channel. Bollocks. It's not. Okay? Like, less than 100 people will have watched this live stream, and when I come back like a week later, up to 500 or 600 or more will have watched the thing. Or various amounts of it, depending on how useful it was. Okay, but my one comment is that the Kender is written in the UA doesn't feel like Tasselhoff. No, it doesn't. Yeah, I feel like it needs to be closer, because what's going to happen is if they release it like this, those of us who know what Kender are like are going to just change it anyway. Texas oil is cleaner. Probably. That's probably what's going on. But Yellowmouth, hello Yellowmouth, they should have made sure that a refinery could process the oil that we pull out of the ground around New Zealand. It's the smartest thing to have done, but it didn't happen. Okay, we're not talking about oil anymore. So now, question. What is next week? Next week, provided all goes well, and I don't wind up with Omicron or positive or sick or anything like that, because I'm currently working with a whole lot of people at work who are positive and who are sick. So there's a high likelihood, and since we're at Skeleton Crew, I was going to talk about the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book. I have done my notes. I haven't typed them up, but they are there. I've had a good amount of time to think about it. I sat under the tree at the beach, let nature come to me, and work my way through the whole thing. So it's probably going to definitely be the Wild Beyond the Witchlight review. I know a lot of you have been waiting for it for a long time. And then the following week, I'm hoping I will get to finally talk about monster parts. and what you can do with them, or where you can stick them. Okay. Question before I'd rattle off, because I should. I've got a Dungeon Master round table today. GG, what do you got here? Question: do you think the Dragon Soul Sorcerer holds up still, or could do with a rework? The Dragon Soul Sorcerer. I'd have to have another look at it. Do I think that the Dragon Soul Sorcerer holds up against Lunar Magic? Not with regard to spell casting. If we look at the Dragon Soul Sorcerer with regard to spell casting, and then we look at the Lunar Magic Sorcerer, I think the Lunar Magic Sorcerer is significantly more capable. But I think the thing to remember is that I'm pretty sure the Dragon Soul Sorcerer has a lot more features, versatility, flexibility. You can do a lot more. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Overboard, for for watching, and thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. So I would say that it depends. If all you're ever going to be doing is focusing on spell casting, then yeah. But the Dragon Soul Sorcerer does have a few abilities that sort of fill the three pillars of play, whereas I don't really feel like that's happening with something like the Lunar Magic Sorcerer. Even though there's a lot of different options, there's different phases of the moon, you can switch things back and forth a lot, but I don't know that it necessarily is doing very much more than that. That's just my opinion. Question. Pale Rider. Question. Will the round table be live? I don't know that it is going to be live today. So to give you an idea of who I'm going to be talking with, I'm going to be talking with the Hype Goblin, Sarah. She's very good at this sort of stuff. If she was hosting, she would probably do it live. I've got HowtoDandD, which is Josiah. If he was hosting, he would do it live. But it's Juice, master the game. So I've got Juice involved. Some of you may or may not know of Juice, master the game. He's been around a long time. I don't know that he is going to be interested in doing it live. I'm going to go and ask him today after this live stream if he wants to host it live, because I know that myself, Sarah, and Josiah, we can handle it. We won't freak out. We won't go or anything like that. We'll be like, sweet, no problem. We'll do it live. So if I know it's going to be live, I will let you know in my community tab today. Okay? I'll make sure I'll let you know. But I am honestly unsure. I didn't want to scare Juice off too much. And I think going live for your very first couple of Dungeon Master Roundtable discussions, when you don't really know everybody that well, it's probably a little bit stressful for people. So I don't want to stress people out. I want them to feel like they're welcome. I want them to keep coming back. And if you see people coming back into these discussions for the Dungeon Master Roundtable, it's because they are now well and truly now a knight. The Knight of the Camelot table, mate. They're going to keep coming back, whoever they are. And if you've only seen them pop up once or twice, that probably means it wasn't for them. It's not their stick, or they feel like that it's going to detract to, it's not going to be very good on their channel, and so they don't want to do it. It's all right. I'm working the facial recognition that Google and YouTube aren't supposed to be running on the internet. I'm exploiting the snot out of that right now, and I think it's working slowly, but we're getting there. Juice, I don't think I'm familiar with that channel. Yeah, no, it's not a new channel. He's been around a long time. Juice, I think, has been around longer than I have. Juice and AJ Pickett go right back. So yeah, but you'll get to see him eventually. He will show up in videos, and if he's live today, great. But I don't want to scare I don't want to scare him. Look, I've got 3 minutes. 3 minutes, and what I will do is I will go over and I will pull up the window with the PDF. We'll do that now, and I'll go have a look at the PDF. Where's the PDF? Right, so hopefully you can see this. I'm not going to look at all this other stuff here. We're going to go straight to the feats, because I didn't really talk about them that much, primarily because I didn't think they were that interesting. So Adept of the Black Robes, what do we got here? So you can see that prerequisite of level 4, high sorcery initiate feats, so you've got to have a feat already, and any non-good alignment. So there's alignment tied to this. So what is it that you get? You learn 1 second level spell of your choice. The second level spell must be from the Evocation or Necromancy School of Magic. You can cast this feat's second level spell without a spell slot. Okay, basically, it must finish a long rest to gain it again. So basically, you get a free second level spell. Okay, and then you got Life Channel. You can channel your life force and the power of your magic when a creature you can see within 60 feet of you fails on a saving throw against a spell you cast. You can expend a number of hit die equal to your spell level. Roll a number of hit die equal to half the number of hit die expended. Oh, this is so complicated. And the damage, the triggers, yeah, something really complicated. Okay, so my suspicion is that all of the Adept of the whatever robes are going to have the same. Yeah, so you get a second level spell, and then you get a secondary effect, and the secondary effect for the red robe looks to me like it is something it's around saving throws. When you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, okay, roll a 9 or lower on the d20, you can use your reaction to balance fate and treat the roll as a 10. Alright, so it's like you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before you need to take a long rest. Okay, so basically you get rid of those 1s to 9s, and you can do that a number of times. And at 4th level you can probably do that twice before taking a long rest, and at higher levels it'll get better. And you know, don't get this thing, you can't pick this up until you're level 4 anyway. Okay, alright. And it looks like the other one, it's same sort of thing, just different types of skill, but you get a second level spell free, and then you get another feature on top of that. None of these look that mind-blowing. I wouldn't consider them hugely taxing. Maybe a bit complicated. They don't look like they've been written by somebody who's trying to make things simple to understand. So this one is Protective Ward. You see a creature within 30 feet of you, it takes damage. You can use your reaction to expend a spell slot, and weave protective magic around that target. Roll a number of d4s equal to the level of the spell slot expended, and reduce the damage. Okay, alright. Divine Communication. So you increase an ability score by 1. You get to speak, read and write Celestial and 2 other languages of your choice. That's pretty good. So you're already getting an ability pump, and you essentially are getting 3 languages. Linguist looks like it's getting pushed aside. You can cast the Augury and Communication spell without a spell slot. Okay, you must finish You must finish 1d4 long rests before. Okay, so it recharges even. So that's going to be a pain. Look, having to do roll a 4-sided dice and figure out how many long rests you need to take before you can do this again. This Divine Omens thing is painful. I don't know why would you put a mechanic like this in here. It's just a giant disaster waiting to happen. Divine Favor, basically the Thaumaturgy cantrip, and 1 first level spell cast. Yeah, okay, so basically it's kind of like a very limited version of Magic Initiate, if you ask me. As far as I can tell, you basically get a first level spell, you can cast it, don't use a spell slot, long rest, recharge it, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's the sort of standard thing we've been seeing. I've already talked about the Initiate of High Sorcery, so we won't look at that. And also too, the cantrips you get are very limited. You get a selection of, is it 3 cantrips? Like it's very limited. The number of types of spells you can select from first level spells is very limited. It's just 2 schools of magic you can pick depending on the moon you choose. Knight of the Crown, you get so you get a bonus to either strength or dexterity, and then you get tactical teamwork. Where did I get the proficiency stuff from? Make attack against 5 feet. You can use your reaction to grant advantage on an attack roll. Its reaction a number of times equal to. So basically, this is a reaction attack, and it's based off your proficiency bonus before recharging. Okay, Knight of the Sword. There's lots of there's Knight of the Sword, Knight of the Rose. It looks to me like it's a gain proficiency in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throws. So you get to pick. So you get 1. So you get to have proficiency in a saving throw, and there's 3 options available, and then willpower. So they are slightly different. There is some slight differences here. Here we go. Here's the Squire of Solamnia. This is the one that I was there. So it is. It's medium armor proficiency, martial weapon proficiency, advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off a mount. How often does that happen? And encouraging rally. Okay, so you can encourage people. 30 foot saving throws. Okay, and then long rest. Finish a long rest. Okay, so I mean, I wouldn't say anything that's super powerful there. Nothing that I would sort of freak out about, unless of course you want to. You don't have to though. I'm not going to. I don't know that was necessarily hugely useful to anybody. I do apologise if you thought that was kind of pointless on my part. But I thought I would at least quickly have I didn't like the feats. I thought I had a cursory look at them and I thought, blah, 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 blah. But I'm biased. Okay, I don't like the feats that they put out. I'm not really fond of feats anyway. I've never really been that fond of them. Okay, Ramiro, what do you got here? Artificer with a flamethrower can make up for fireball. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay, I've talked way too long. I need to get off here. I need to let you guys go and do something else. And we'll be back next week to do more, because there's more to say. And apparently I have more to say. Unfortunately for you. Hey, thank you to everybody who watched my live stream. I know it's very long. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you to my patrons. And look, if you found this useful, great. Okay, if you didn't, I understand. If you like my content, I actually have hundreds of videos for players in Dungeon Master. No, I'm not doing all that again. Why am I doing that all again? No. So thank you very much. Wherever you are in the world, whether it the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. And hey, be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm all mouth. I'm all out. I'm out of juice. I'm done. I can't do any more. I've got to finish. It's too hard.